really good game up at Oregon. UCLA went up there, thought UCLA would win. They didn't. They did not. Oregon's up next.
I see a Ducks team here, Jason, that isn't going anywhere. I mean, they just have too much. And defensively, they give up some yards today, sure, but they settle for field goals and holding the field goals, absolutely. Did they come off a bye week just as sharp as they went into it? Absolutely.
Yeah, good description by Brock there. He did a great job on that game. I was jealous, right? I mean, like, our game was a stinker. His was fantastic. And he did an awesome job. Awesome job. This Oregon team is a really good story and just really good. And I'll talk about both of those things. Let's start with, why is Oregon such a good team? Okay, well, one, I think that this has gone overlooked, and certainly went overlooked by me leading into this game, is they've got one of the best home field advantages in all of college football. All right, Autzen was awesome, right? And our crew there with Fox, Bo Garrett, the producer, everybody involved, they did an amazing job just showing the atmosphere, the shout in the third quarter. Like, it was a great atmosphere. It was loud, and you could tell that made life really difficult on UCLA, who I still think is a pretty good team, by the way. This doesn't mean UCLA is bad, by the way. It just means Oregon is really good, and that place is ridiculously difficult to play. They've won 23 straight games there, and that's one of the best home field advantages in the sport, and no one talks about it. We never talk about it. And shame on me, shame on guys like me for not talking about Pac-12 football that way. We just never talk about atmospheres on the West Coast as being great. That's a great atmosphere. Oregon's got one of the best home field advantages in the entire sport, and they proved it on Saturday. So good on you, Duck fans. You were fantastic. That was loud and difficult on a really veteran quarterback and a good team in UCLA. And Oregon handled a really good UCLA team 45-30. And how did they do that? Well, they did it because they just put their head down after that opening week loss and got better and better and better. The offensive line is the best offensive line in the Pac-12 and one of the better ones in the country. And that was proven out on Saturday. Their run game was tremendous, tremendous. I thought Bo Nix was outstanding. That always comes with a caveat, because when you play the amount of football that Bo Nix has under the microscope, you know that, like, there's good Bo and bad Bo, and we got the really good Bo on Saturday, and that was fantastic for Oregon. He threw a couple of those deep balls that were impeccable. They were as good as you can possibly throw them. They've got speed on the outside. They're tough on defense, even though they gave up some yards. They're tough. It was hard on UCLA all game long. That's why they ended up having to settle for field goals, because nothing came easy. So even though they were able to score 30 and gain some yards, it was hard work. That's exactly what a defense should do. I think they're really skilled and good in the backfield. Oregon is a really good football team, a really good football team. And so it leads you to, like, well, what are we supposed to do with week one? What are you supposed to do with week one? Because they got drilled by, 46? Against Georgia in week one. Well, let's not explain it away. And yes, that's a huge win for Georgia and looks better every single week as Oregon continues to get better. But in hindsight, here's a program that loses their coach, hires a guy that basically goes across country from Georgia as a defense coordinator all the way up to Oregon. They get a quarterback across the country. They're trying to build a team chemistry. There's a lot of these players that I'm sure feel jaded that Dan Lanning's trying to win over in the locker room and build a chemistry at Oregon. It's always difficult for a new coach. He's a first-time head coach. And here he is in his very first game, and they've got to go to the defending national champion in their backyard, which basically should be Athens, light, and it's not even light. So they go into hostile territory against a veteran quarterback that just won a title, that knows this style and schematics inside and out because they just ran Dan Lanning's system defensively and are continuing to do so. And here you go. And then they beat them down. They beat them down thoroughly. And we just threw Oregon away. And shame on us. Shame on us. And this is why this sport and its structure is so cruel and ruthless. It's really cruel and ruthless. Now, part of that is what makes it amazing, is because the regular season matters and week one matters. You know, when this happens in the NFL, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Like, I'm a Denver Nuggets fan because I grew up in Denver. And, like, I think they lost game 1 last week, but I don't even really know. Why? Because who cares? Who cares? So that's part of what makes college football amazing, is that we do care, and it does matter right from Jump Street. But at the same time, it makes it cruel. It really does. And ruthless in a lot of regards, because we tossed Oregon into the trash heap. And kudos to them. Dan Lanning, Kenny Dillingham, Tosh Lapoy, all those players, Bo Nix, all of you guys. You just kept working. Good on you. This is what football is all about. And this is what guys like me and fans all over the country, we lose sight of at times, is that this is still a sport of development. Week in and week out, all you're trying to do is get better. And good on Oregon for, after that really humiliating loss, week 1 to Georgia, they just went back to the grindstone and continued to work hard. That was a really good team on Saturday, and they beat a really good team. The Pac-12 is strong this year, much stronger than the ACC. More on that in a moment. But that was a good UCLA team, and they beat them soundly, held them to field goals, right? Stole possessions with the onside kick. They were able to score touchdowns, not kick field goals, utilize their great environment. That was a great college football game and a great college football team. So what do we do with week 1? Well, I can tell you this. I'm much more apt to give Oregon the benefit of the doubt because of the development that we've seen and the nature in which that first game had to play out, right? Like, this is a team that I will absolutely, if they are able to win the Pac-12, will argue that they should be in the college football playoff because they're looking that good. They're looking that good. Let's just pose it this way. This will be the last way that I'll pose this. They had to go week 1 in Lanning's first game as a head coach, Nix's first game as the Oregon quarterback, into Georgia territory and play Georgia. Let's just say, sake of argument, Georgia this week had to go to Autzen Stadium. Now, I'm not arguing Georgia would lose that game. I'm not arguing that, by the way, I'd probably pick Georgia in that game. Hell, I just picked UCLA last week like a dummy. But it ain't a 46-point blowout. Not even close. Not even close. And even a Georgia fan would have to admit that. You'd have to admit that. That team is way better, way better. They're in the catbird seat in what I think is a really good and deep conference. And if they're able to, with only that one loss, win that conference, I think that they should probably go to the playoff.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here, College Football on Fox.